Thanks for watching. If you're on our blog, don't forget to click the top bar where there's a link so you can download the ebook of the month. And if you're watching us on YouTube, click the description. There's a link there as well. Enjoy. Hi everybody, and welcome to the Big Idea of the Week. I'm June Brockmeyer, happy to be joined by Rebecca Sprynczynatyk, Director of Communications here at Infusionsoft. How are you today?
I'm great, how are you?
Great, we're so excited to have you. This has been a great month with a lot of information about market research, and we're closing it out, people. We're closing it out with avoiding analysis paralysis. We kind of gave you an idea of what that meant last week. And basically it is not about you losing your mind. No, this is helpful. It's about you using that data and analyzing it properly. So I'm going to let Rebecca take it over from here. Tell us about that.
So a few weeks ago we talked about the importance of understanding the goal of your survey.
Yes.
And we track that through and asking the right questions and asking them in the right way. But oftentimes when we get to the point where it's time to analyze the data, we totally forget what question we were trying to answer. And we just start geeking out on all of the different ways that we can look at it. So the first thing to keep in mind is remembering what was the original question I'm trying to answer, and how can the results of this give me the information I need to make the right decision.
Okay.
So that's the first step. Keep that in mind.
Perfect. So once I find, okay, this is what I want. My goal is to find out how I'm doing on this part of my business with these people. Then you have all that data. I know I've seen, because again, I'm not a data person as much as Rebecca is, which is why she's here talking as the expert. All this data can be a little overwhelming. How do we organize it all?
Visually is typically the best way. So you'll see in newspapers and in reports, we've got pie charts, bar charts, all those things. Visual depictions of data are generally the best way that we can absorb it.
Okay.
The key to ensuring that it's not misleading is to map the right type of chart with the question that you asked.
Oh, so there's a method?
There is.
Absolutely. I want to know. Let's start with pie charts.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
The infamous pie chart. This is typically, you'll see it all over the place. It's used all the time. Pie charts are great for looking at a whole segment and then showing the percentage of contribution that each group has within that.
Okay.
So one thing to remember is that your pie chart has to add up to 100%.
Yes. Okay.
This doesn't always happen. I've seen errors where people are throwing lots of different things in there. It has to add 200, and the idea is you can look at it at a glance and say, oh, men represent 50%, women represent 50%.
I see.
So it's a great way to look at different segments and their contribution.
Okay, so remember it adds to 100, and it's easy to look at. That's why visually it's helping you understand that data.
Exactly.
Okay, what else can we look at?
Bar graphs are also really effective. So earlier we talked about multiple choice questions where you could select multiple options. Bar graphs are great for showing that.
Okay.
So you could see, of all of the people that we surveyed, how many of them are doing X, Y, Z. And we could easily compare those responses to each other.
Great.
They're also really good for rating questions. So when we say on a scale of 1 to 5, how would you rate the speed of our delivery? You can see where people are ranking you.
That's great, and then you do have that visual of up or down. That's great. I've seen those, and I didn't realize that they could be for multiple questions, multiple answers, so that's good to know. All right, what about line charts? I know that's kind of like a bar graph, but it has just the little dots.
Right.
Does that?
So line charts are not typically used in survey responses because they're used to measure responses over time. So if you're just gathering data at one point in time, a line chart isn't going to tell you anything. But if you deploy the same survey every month, or every quarter, or every year, and you ask the same question to the same group, you could use a line chart to graph out their responses and see how it's changing.
That makes sense. Now that I'm picturing it in my head, you will see the month or the year, and you'll see the different, answers and how your company was doing because of that answer, referring to the people that answer that question.
Exactly.
Okay, great. And then crosstab report. I'm cheating looking at her sheet because this is an interesting one that I'm like, I don't know what that is.
Yes. So crosstabs, I would say this would be an advanced skill for analysis. A crosstab will tell you a correlation between two factors. So if you want to take a look at industry and revenue, for example, a crosstab could tell you that people in a service industry tend to have a lower revenue than someone in a product-based industry.
Okay. Do we know what they look like? Can I imagine it?
Think of it as a giant grid.
And,
so it's a grid with numbers, and you'll see basically percentages that will say, oh, there's a correlation here, there's a positive correlation or a negative correlation.
That's great.
So
Awesome.
I'll put some examples up for you to take a look at.
And I know you out there know what that means. I've never seen it, but I know you, the one person or maybe a couple of you have used it, so that's great. Hopefully you're using it correctly. And all of these options are just for you to be able to take that data and analyze it so that all this work that you've been putting into all the things we've been talking about doesn't just get thrown in the garbage and you don't analyze stuff that you could be valuing and using it to change your business. So that's great. As far as the graphs go, is there anything else that you can tell our viewers about, you know, keeping it together and making it work?
Sure. So there's one other thing to think about.
Okay.
When you get your data as a whole, it's great to analyze it, take a look at it in a couple of different ways, but you will uncover additional questions. So you may see something where it surprises you and you say, I don't understand why that question or why those answers are segmented out the way they are. So you could then filter your data and say, I want to see the results for just the men who took the survey or just the women who took the survey. So then you compare all of that to your overall data and you can start to see trends and segments of your group that respond differently.
That you didn't even know you had, maybe.
Exactly.
Great.
Exactly.
So listen to what people are telling you in an underlined way when you're looking at the data.
Yeah.
Great.
And sometimes that just takes a little bit of intuition and guessing. You could say, I have a hunch that our groups might be segmented like this, and you start filtering and you look at the data and you see if your hypothesis is confirmed or not.
Yay! Sounds so good, and it's actually a pattern and an organized path, and I think anybody out there would be benefiting if they used, you know, the market research the right way. Of course, these are just videos giving you an overall idea of how you can do it with Rebecca here explaining it, but we also have an ebook this month that we'll be promoting throughout our social media channels as well as on the Big Ideas blog. The address is bigideasblog.infusionsoft.com, and for us here, we just want to remind you that this is just information that you can find, that you can benefit your own business. You can take advantage of it to your own business to make it work for you. You don't have to have Infusionsoft. You just make market research work for you. And we also have a webinar tomorrow. You still have time to sign up, the 27th. So make sure that you sign up for that. That'll be great. And if you have any questions, you can ask them on the webinar, or you can email us or tweet at us at Big Ideas Blog and all right, and thank you so much, Rebecca. This has been a wonderful series of interviews. If you guys have any more questions, let us know, and we will see you here next week with a new idea.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.